Today on Locked On Rockies, maybe I overestimated the Colorado Rockies during this offseason because the team I saw play baseball this weekend was a flat-out embarrassment.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 17th day of April in the year 2023. I am your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, well, guess what? You're in the right spot because that's what we do around here. I am your Rockies fan extraordinaire, Paul Holden, bringing you this daily Colorado Rockies talk. Been bringing you this talk for about 3 seasons now, following the team my entire life, bringing you your Rockies fan perspective on the purple pinstripes. And today on the Locked On Rockies episode, it is a soapbox episode. It is a rant episode. It is an episode where I am full of disappointment, ire, and frustration with the Colorado Rockies after a long list of missteps by the Rockies this weekend. But before we dive into that, got to let you know today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate Baseball GM. If you've ever dreamed of becoming an MLB GM and managing your baseball franchise, then this game is definitely for you. Download the game, visit ultimatebaseballgm.com or look it up on the app stores. Our listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo Locked On in the game. Folks, there is no easy way to put it. The Colorado Rockies were embarrassed over the weekend, and I want to say what's up to our live chat. Joel DeGrace, welcome back into the show. Be part of the show. Subscribe to Locked On Rockies on YouTube and vent with me. Tell me how you feel, because there are few times that I have watched Rockies baseball in person and just felt incredibly disappointed, embarrassed to wear a jersey, especially in an away stadium. The Colorado Rockies' efforts against the Mariners this weekend were pathetic. Pathetic. Luis Castillo is an incredible pitcher. You know what? Yesterday, honestly, wasn't the worst part. In fact, I was rooting for the perfect game to happen at one point because of just how much the Rockies disappoint. The game was winnable on Friday with multiple missed opportunities, and then Saturday. There is nothing, no spin, absolutely nothing I want to hear from any brass member of the Colorado Rockies. That game was an embarrassment. I brought a bunch of friends to that game. I had a bunch of people that had come from Colorado. I had people visiting with me. And I sat, and they know, there are a few people in their lives, if any, that care about this baseball team as much as I do. And I spent most of the game with my head in my hands. That is not a competitive baseball team. It's not. It's not a competitive baseball team. It's not anywhere close to the caliber of winning baseball. They're not anywhere close to getting better like Arizona is. The Rockies are bad. They are not making adjustments. They are not getting better. They're handing teams wins. They lost a baseball game by 7 runs and were only out hit by 2 runs. My roommates are so annoyed of hearing me say that because I can't stop bringing up the fact of how utterly bad that is. There is no improvement. And then the Rockies have the gall to call up somebody who is having a hot start to the season in Nolan Jones and have him sit on the bench and do nothing during a blowout game, and then during a game when no one was, and then they already optioned him. What was the point? There is no direction. There's no organization. And this team is so far behind the NL West and the rest of the competitive teams in this league. They are lucky. There are a handful of teams that are so poorly mismanaged that they're not one of them. And the Rockies can maybe escape. But boy, this weekend, Every positive thing I had to say about the Rockies felt like it was washed away. It started good, the Chris Bryant home run. That was great. KB left the yard. So what? So what? When you can't come and win a big game, if you can't go on the road and win those games, never. I don't want to hear a single word from the front office about being a competitive team this year. It is time to embrace the young guys. It is in time to embrace a rebuild. It is in time to embrace being a bad baseball team, because to just keep on throwing out the crock of crap that this is a team that's going to compete, this is a team that's going to do something, and then they go out and play like that? Like crap? Like slop? And you want me to think that that team can beat the Dodgers? Ha! Joke. The Giants. They can't even, the Rockies can't even sniff being close to fourth place in the NL West right now. What we saw this weekend and what we've seen now since the Padres series is who the Rockies are. Until they make an adjustment, until they prove to us that they can change, this might be the second worst team in baseball. Everything that I thought was going to change about the Rockies and the positive stuff, maybe I'm overreacting, but they certainly haven't showed us anything to feel differently. I don't want to believe that this is a 100-loss team. I still believe the pieces on this roster are better than the pieces last year, but they ain't cutting it. They ain't showing it. Oh my goodness. The Rockies can't hit. The Rockies can't pitch. The Rockies can't field. The Rockies can't run bases. The Rockies can't do anything but lose. That's what the Rockies are capable of doing right now. Losing. And losing in embarrassing fashion. The Rockies were close for one game and then just were absolutely clowned for two more in Seattle. Clowned on the broadcast, clowned on the field, clowned in the stands. The Rockies were clowns. And an even bigger clowns continue to be the front office and why this team is in the situation that is in. Why did Nolan Jones not play? Unacceptable. It makes no sense that Mike Moustakas got that pinch hit. It makes no sense that Mike Moustakas was put in that game. It makes no sense what the Rockies are doing. Either build your team and actually be a competitive team, or embrace a rebuild. Stop with the wishy-washy. Stop with this, pick a plan, develop, because you're losing ground to Arizona. Arizona beat the snot out of the Dodgers recently. Arizona is sitting at the top of the NL West to start the season, and they're going to fight. Colorado is in their June free fall in the third week of the season. Darryl Scott, his job should be in jeopardy. Scott Foster's job should be in jeopardy. Dick Monfort should be embarrassed. Bill Schmidt should be embarrassed. The front office of the Colorado Rockies should be embarrassed. But you want to know what's not embarrassing? The money they're still making. I really did want, I try sometimes to bring positive stuff in there, but I'm sorry. There is nothing positive to say about the Rockies after that weekend. This is a weekend where Rockies fans were tested and were shown that this team is so far away that it's going to take a lot. They're further, unless they can really surprise me, this team is so far away and so mismanaged. It's hard to imagine that it gets better. Can it get better? Will it get better? Your thoughts and more coming up here, and we'll take a look at some of some more of the stuff, some of the things that came out for the weekend, including we will highlight the one positive thing from the weekend. We will get some positive talk today on the Locked On Rockies podcast. Coming up in segment number 2. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about our friends at Ultimate Baseball GM. The Ultimate Pro Baseball GM app is exactly what you need to do if you're a Rockies fan looking to give running a team a shot. If you want to call the shots, you want to manage a team, you want to get the big players, the right staff, and do what you think the Rockies should do, well, the Ultimate Pro Baseball GM game is for you. Like I said, you're going to have to hire your staff. You're going to have to manage those finances, and you're also going to have to scout and draft your players, and that includes their personalities and injury histories. You're going to navigate through free agency and see what happens during the ups and downs of a season, all in a challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Baseball GM is completely free and playable offline, playing on the go, wherever you want to go. Run your team the best possible way. And let's help you run that team to the most of your abilities with this offer here. The Locked On Rockies listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code Locked On in the game store. That's Locked On in the game store for a 100% free boost. Download the game by visiting probaseballgm.com. You can scan the code right here on the screen if you're watching on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, or it's available on the App Store. That's probaseballgm.com. Ultimate Baseball GM. Start your dynasty today. Whew, little sneeze there. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. Appreciate you everyday listeners out there, our everydayers tuning in. Appreciate all you tuning into the live chat here as well, venting out your thoughts on the Rockies getting swept in Seattle. Joel DeGrace is here. Nicholas Delvo's here. Jocelyn Copper is here. Let's see what we got to see. And Ryan Tartlesky, let's see what he says. So this offense is struggling. There's a former top 100 prospect crushing it in AAA, a guy they went out and acquired, and Bud can't find a single at-bat for Nolan Jones. But keep on playing Castro. Ding, 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 ding. Great management. Here's the deal. I haven't been too critical of Bud Black, but that's also on Bud Black. That is unbelievable. Unacceptable. And then you let him go. He gets called down. I mean, just the flip-flop for Noah Davis. You knew Herman was on the IL before. You had to make some moves. You should have made some adjustments there. You should have given the guy that's been swinging a hot bat an opportunity to jumpstart your offense against a good team. Instead, you called up a prospect that you were hoping was going to make the roster anyway, someone that was going to contribute and be part of the Rockies during opening day when you went out and traded for him. But instead, you sat him on the bench. How are we a draft and develop team? How is that the philosophy? And this is not the only example of the Rockies doing this. This is a long history of the Colorado Rockies calling up prospects and not doing anything. But we're a draft and develop team. It's all lip service. It's all been lip service, especially in the wake of the competitive window. Lip service, lip service, lip service, lip service. You're not a draft and develop team. There's no pitchers. There's no pitching. And the pitchers you did develop are gone. Gone. You can't be a draft and develop team and not have pitchers or players to call up and replace the players that you have moved away from. And the players that you have developed have to do big things. No one is really breaking the mold. No one is really going crazy in a Rockies prospect. There's no Rockies player that's been called up, young guy. Ryan McMahon, for example, that's really gone out and dominated the game. The Rockies are technically an older team still. They got a little younger, but they're still full of veterans. You develop picks by playing them. You develop drafted players by playing them. And by doing stuff like that with Nolan Jones, it's a waste of his time and it's a waste of other opportunities. Remember when they didn't play Brendan Rodgers? Remember when they wouldn't play Brendan Rodgers, and then they did play Brendan Rodgers, and it was a massive improvement? The list can go on and on. Just absolutely mind-boggling that you think in this series, in that opportunity, in those instances, that these players are really the right call. Except rebuilding. Except being bad, because it makes it all the more frustrating when you watch the Rockies get clowned and they're not even doing the things like playing the young guys. How long are we going to give at-bats to Mike Moustakas instead of giving at-bats to Michael Toglia and Nolan Jones? How long are we going to give Harold Castro at-bats before we give these young guys, the guys that we're hoping are the foundation and the part of the future, opportunities? It doesn't make any sense. They continue to do this, and then they continue to lie, and they continue to not have any direction. The Rockies have a chance to get smoked by a Pirates team this weekend or this week at home. It is just absolutely so disappointing. And then, yeah, Ryan, we've heard it. These guys just need to play better. That's just baseball. Maybe you're not as good at drafting and developing as you think. Maybe you're not as good at talent evaluation as you think. Maybe that isn't the identity to keep for the Colorado Rockies. Maybe continuing to do the same old things over and over and over again isn't going to work out other than the pockets, the flashes of competitive windows. And then when you do have competitive windows, you decide to slam them shut because you don't care. Maybe they do care. But what is there's no point with the Rockies right now. There's no, what are we doing? What is the plan? How are we knowing that the Rockies are getting better? Because since the playoffs, the Rockies are getting worse. They aren't getting better. They are getting worse. While the Diamondbacks, the Giants, the Padres, and the Dodgers, along with the rest of the league, are getting better. There are teams that have optimism on the horizon for a few years from now. There are only few teams that are considered to be as much of a dumpster fire as the Colorado Rockies right now. And one of them is being threatened to move and having people plead to go and now buying tickets to plead to keep them there because those fans care about this game and they have possums in the away visit. They can't even have broadcasts there, but the Rockies can host an all-star game on a whim. They are not the same. The Rockies do not deal with the same issues as other teams that are in trouble right now. This is all self-created. All self-imposed. I said positive. I said stuff that we need to talk about, a positive thing that happened this weekend. I didn't get there. We were talking about it in the live chat there from Ryan, our friend. It is just so frustrating. Joel DeGray says, we need a group up restructure of our front office. Not an internal, he's loyal to the organization, reward, promotion, but a genuine ground up rebuild. Yep. The team that beat the Padres is not here. And if they can come back, great. But the Rockies have to play more than a week's worth of solid baseball for me to really start feeling any sort of confidence about this team. Because this losing stretch and the stretch since the Padres game has... it's just been nothing. It's just been a dud, a total wet fart. That's all it's been. I wish I had better analysis for you. But the one call up, the Rockies did call someone up who did play this weekend and did do pretty darn well, especially considering what was going on in that game as well. So let's give our flowers to Noah Davis. Let's look ahead to the Pirates series a little bit as well. Let's wash away. We've gotten our vent. We've done our cleanse and our rant and rave against the Rockies. Let's give our flowers to a young guy who did some great stuff this weekend. But first, Got to tell you about our friends at So Rare. Our new sponsor, So Rare, is a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 teams. Unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, So Rare managers truly own their fantasy experience, collecting, buying, selling, and competing with player cards against global opponents to win epic rewards. Win or lose, you still own your cards, and there's no cost to play. Plus, the more you win, the more you advance, collecting increasingly powerful cards and accessing next-level competitions and rewards. It's interesting here with So Rare. It's because they are really trying to beef up some of these prizes that you can get involved in. So MLB managers, they're the ones that rank at the top of the leaderboards, you can win a variety of rewards, which include scarce, cards, game tickets, merchandise, and more. Check it all out at sorare.com/locked-on. That's sorare.com/locked-on. SORARE.com to draft your team of free player cards, set your lineup, and start competing today to win epic rewards. Again, that's sorare.com/locked-on to start playing today. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast. We thank you for being for making us your first listen of the day. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming service, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Plenty more great Locked On podcasts for you to check out, including the Locked On Buffs, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and a whole lot more. Locked On Broncos, of course. How can I forget the Broncos? Tough days, let me tell you, for being a Colorado sports fan in Seattle, especially after that weekend. One guy that showed up this weekend for the Rockies, called up and had a moment. Noah Davis hung in there and pitched brilliantly for the Colorado Rockies. He also very narrowly avoided getting his head taken off there by a screamer of a line drive. But 5 scoreless innings there for Noah Davis. And that's a wonderful sign. I mean, especially when you're going up against, I think, someone who's going to flirt with the Cy Young this year, and Luis Castillo. We saw he's capable of. It's amazing that the Rockies getting dominated by Luis Castillo wasn't the most frustrating part. That you can kind of expect. For Luis Castillo to come out and dominate your team, he can do that to anybody. The Rockies, it could be anybody. But to go out there and to see what he's doing to your team and still go blow for blow with him, as a young guy, as a guy that's making his first career start, and bouncing up and down, absolutely awesome. Is it enough for us to sit there and be like, whoa, Noah Davis, it's going to save everything? No, but we can sit there and be absolutely encouraged by the fact that he went up against what I believe Locked On Mariners described as the ideal lineup for the Mariners. This was a lot of Mariners starters in that game, a lot of Mariners that have done damage to the Rockies in that game, but Davis is able to go up there and strike out 3 walks, which is a bummer, but only allowing the 3 hits as well. Wonderful, wonderful performance there. And again, I think it says something when you can go up there and kind of go blow for blow for someone that is setting your team down all in a row. The Rockies ended up going 16, 17 in a row, set down. And the whole time, even with the Rockies, being dominated, Noah Davis was doing his job to keep the Rockies in that ball game. So the one positive, the one thing, the kudos to give this weekend certainly go to Noah Davis. A nice start for him. We'll see what that means for the Rockies going forward here. I still the injury to to German Marquez is certainly going to be an impact. Again, this is just one start the Rockies have covered, but Davis will be filling that role again. Let's see if he can replicate it again and help the Rockies stay in some success. Because again, a missed German Marquez start and it's a 1-0 loss where the starter goes out and pitches 5 scoreless. That's great. That's great news for the Rockies right there. Just like everything we've seen from successful or good things for the Rockies, it needs to be consistently done, and they need to do a lot more of it, and that includes some solid Noah Davis starts. But if he's going to be if he's going to be someone that's throwing the ball well while German is gone, Noah Davis should be able to earn a spot in this rotation. No one outside of Kyle Freeland and German Marquez's spot in the rotation, and Senzatella, I suppose, as well, his spot in the rotation should be safe by any means, especially Gomber and Urania. Both of those guys have bullpen written all over them. if Davis can keep it up. Ryan Tarski's got us here today with great comments here. Joel, I got to check that. I think there is some Monfort son in charge of some sort of scouting stuff. There was an internal promotion of a Monfort member this offseason. I can't remember exactly what it was, though. And Nicholas Delvo says they need to give the team a reason to play better. And, it's a team... A young team that's losing close games you feel better about because it's the young players competing. The Rockies losing games right now just makes you more mad. Ryan Tarski says, speaking of the Pirates, they've had a tough schedule to start the year and are 9-7. Guess what they did last year? Played all the youngsters. The Rockies started that. They could have done that again this year, but nope. They have not. And missed out on the opportunity to do so. Rockies take on the Pirates tonight, back at home, Coors Field. Hopefully, it's what the Rockies need to get back on track. But the 9-7 Pirates, I mean, they're again looking to keep this early momentum. I mean, the Rockies are now the bad team. The Rockies are now the team that other teams are going to roll through and try to beat. You got to win your first series of the year here. Because you got a struggling Phillies team that you're playing next. And then you're playing 4 teams in a row that are good ball clubs. If you can beat, you're gonna have to handle a hot Pirates team or a Pirates team that's playing well to start the season. And then you got a Phillies team that's gonna be looking for a get-right series at home, just like the Mariners were. And then you got series against the Guardians, Diamondbacks, Brewers, and Mets. I mean, and the long road could get much, much longer here real soon because the Rockies schedule ain't getting any easier. Kyle Freeland on the bump, so you feel good about that. We'll see what K-Free can do against the Pirates tonight. First pitch coming up here at 6:40 Mountain Time. Rockies in desperate need of a win tonight. Folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. Wonderful live chat today. How are you feeling about the Rockies? What's going on? Let me know in the comments below. Tomorrow on Locked On Rockies, we'll break down tonight's game here. Look at Kyle Freeland as well to see how he handles a bounce back after letting up his first runs of the year and comparing some of the Pirates and Rockies. What the Pirates have done well, what the Rockies have not, and how they can both get how the Rockies can bump back up and get themselves back on track. We'll be talking about all that tomorrow and through the week. Folks, until next time, thank you so much for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. We will be back in action tomorrow, as we do every day, talking Rockies right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Until then, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Podcast Network.